Twitter wasn't a thing, So, um,
Great
that's
school.
definitely helped as well. But it's a school that historically has a really strong pedigree and a great reputation, really nationwide. So, we have some name brand recognition, and that certainly doesn't hurt either.
So, Coach, are you able to go in and maybe tell us a little bit more about the school as a whole, as far as programs and what I guess campus life is like, and maybe even Alan can even back you up on what it's like as a student there.
Sure, he can fact check me too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. I came on the hill at 98, man.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
he
so
knows.
I'm sure things have changed since then, but go ahead, Coach.
Definitely.
The hill is not gonna change.
No, the hill doesn't change too much for sure. The we're the oldest private military college in the country and the birthplace of ROT.
Absolutely.
As AT alluded to, the school was founded in 1819. So, we just celebrated our 200th birthday. So we've been around a long time, and our roots are very much in being that, senior military college. But unlike a lot of the other senior military colleges, we do have civilian students as well. So while, again, that's our history, it's something we're very proud of and a huge part of what we are. Guys and girls have the opportunity to come up here and pursue a civilian lifestyle education as well, which I think makes it a really unique place, and I think benefits our students, particularly those that are going into the military. Nowadays, when you're in the military and in a leadership position, you're going to deal with a lot of, whether it's civilian contractors or people from the corporate world, whatever it may be. So they're able to get a lot of that crossover here as undergrads, and I think it really benefits them. Again, it makes us, I say a lot that we're kind of a one-of-a-kind school, because really, the only two schools in the country that are exactly like us are Texas A&M and Virginia Tech. And because they're so much larger, their Corps of Cadets is a much smaller percentage of the population that is here. Approximately 2/3 of our students are in the Corps of Cadets. So they're living the military lifestyle and wearing the uniform and doing all the things that a kid would do at West Point or Naval Academy or any of those places. So, again, a really unique place with a really interesting blend that I really think benefits our kids.
Well, one interesting fact I noticed, what is it? Is it 97 or 98% placement within a job or military after graduation?
Yeah, it's at about 96% right now, and within 8 months of graduation. And to your point, it's those kids are either starting their military service, continuing education, so in a graduate program,
right,
or employed within their field of study, right, which is the key phrase. You can be employed, but if it's not in your field of study, that's not the goal. So we've been able to employ at a really high rate, and one of the reason I think that is, again, this is where AT can fact check me, but I think what lends itself really well is our founder way back in 1819 had a vision today of experiential learning, where the majority of our learning here is hands-on doing rather than just sitting and listening. So I think that's what really benefits our kids when they come out the door and they cross that stage of graduation. They already have 1, 2, 3 years of experience in their field of doing. And when their resume hits the pile, we like to say, a Norwich degree, put your resume in a different pile. That's
great. There's a lot of students that actually learn better by doing. So it's definitely.
Let me get a charger real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think speaking from experience myself, I think if we're being honest, most, if not all, students do learn better that way. Some can learn just fine. Some can learn just fine sitting in a lecture hall. I was not one of them, but a lot of kids could do it. But when you have the opportunity to do more of a hands-on experiential style of education, I really think it just lends itself to success. And we were as a university kind of pioneers of that, and it's something that we've stayed true to for 201 years now.
What I've noticed about sorry guys, I had to switch computers because my computer was a little messed up, so I apologize for that. But one of the things, you guys can hear me better now, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. All right, great. So one of the things I've noticed about Norwich University is the alumni base, and once you leave, the connections that you forge, you know, with you know, past and present students. It's incredible, actually. You know, when you see the type of people that have actually passed through that that university, and what they can do for you. It's literally incredible. Like, you know, militarily and in civilian life, it's like, you know, the things that you can do with a degree there are pretty incredible.
For sure. And I think one of the things I talk about, again, we already talked about it, but how unique the school is, and that also lends itself to having a very unique experience, right? That's not the, and I don't say this derisively, but it's not the average experience. It is something above and beyond what average would be. So I think there's, particularly for those students who are in the Corps of Cadets, much like in any other military school, but they go through some trials together. They go through some adversity together. It's a resiliency check. It's a character builder, you know, than any other cliche you want to say, but it's all true. And I think that lends itself to creating those bonds that are a lot tighter. They've been through something different together. And, you know, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We're also here in Vermont, right? You're going through a cold winter. You're going through a lot of things that just
Coach, school don't close.
Yeah, school don't close. There's 4 days in Norwich. So those bonds that are created, to your point, just, you know, once you're here on the hill, and AT said it, like, the hill don't change. Like, once you're here on the hill, you're on the hill forever. So, you know, those guys, I mean, I've been here long enough now where guys that I coached 13 years ago that are in a field and having success. Hey, coach, you need me to call a kid? You want me to call this kid? You got a kid who's looking for an internship. You got a kid who wants a GA doing this. Yeah. Like Norwich takes care of Norwich. You know, they really do a great job with that. And that speaks more to our alumni than any of us here. But to your point, some of the most impressive men and women I've ever met in my entire life have come out of this place. So it's a really cool network to be a part of. And once you get in it, you're in it for life. And they really do a great job of caring for each other.
Well, one thing that doesn't hurt, which I'm not sure if many people know, Vermont as a state is absolutely beautiful, and the campus, you know, from the pictures I've seen, is really, really nice, and you know, you have some pretty nice facilities. Can you touch on that a little bit more? The facilities of the place?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and to your point, like, it is a beautiful state, right? And Norwich is nestled right in a valley. I mean, literally, if you're standing on the 50-yard line of Sabine Field, you look to your right, there's a mountain. You look to your left, there's a mountain.
Right.
I mean, we are
back then. We used to have the ski resort there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Pain Mountain. So, you know, we are in this beautiful setting, and we do have a very beautiful campus, to your point, and a vibrant campus life that, you know, I think from the outside looking in, you're like, well, you know, it's Vermont. What is there to do? You know, we're not near any real cities, so to speak. We got a couple of smaller cities nearby. Montpelier is the state capital. It's about 12 miles down the road. You don't even have to make a turn. Turn out of campus.
Hey, Coach, do they still have no McDonald's?
No McDonald's in North. Oh, yeah, Montpelier. No, there's a fun fact for you guys. AT just brought up Montpelier, Vermont.
I know all about it.
State capital with no McDonald's.
And there's actually an underground railroad over there too.
They still have Rocket J's though, right?
Oh yeah, we still got Rocket J's. Yeah,
that ain't in Montpelier though.
Yeah. So, so there's a really vibrant life. I mean, it's a very close-knit campus community, regardless of whether it's athletes and non-athletes or core students and civilian students. And, you know, it's kind of a one Norwich feel, and there's a very tight-knit community here. And, you know, to AT's point, they used to have a fully functional university-operated ski hill. No longer operates as a ski facility, but we went through as a university and regroomed all the trails and put an outdoor recreation center right there on the mountain where the kids can ski and snowshoe and paintball and do all these things right on mountain bike, right on the mountain. It doesn't cost them a dime. So, you know, we get these kids from all over the country, like you talked about. We had an all-conference DN from Florida that came up here and became an avid snowboarder. I've never tried it before and got into it. And,
that's how I learned.
Yeah, right. And, you know, I tell kids all the time in recruiting, like, if you go to school in Vermont, right, what are you going to do? You're going to ski, you're going to snowboard, you're going to try those things. Or you go to school in Miami, you're going to go to the beach. You know,
after a while, you get bored.
You're gonna go to Killington, you're gonna go to Stowe, you're gonna end up going to one of those places.
Yeah, for real. So Yeah, I mean it's a great state, and to bring it to the present, and something that's pertinent right now. I'm not a native Vermonter, so I'm not pumping the tires in my home state. But as you look at nationally this pandemic, that hopefully we're coming out the other end of it now, but Vermont handled it better than just about any state in the country too. So it was really a great place. I got 3 young kids. It was a great place for me to be. And I think our players and our students kind of felt the same way of, hey, I'm in this great place where the state is really handling it, keeping these numbers low, minimizing my risk. So yeah, I mean, it was a state that I came up here as an opponent, and got my butt kicked, but I came up here as an opponent in the early 2000s. And then I had never really been in Vermont, for anything before I took the job here. And, living here and working at this place and raising a family, it's a great place to be for sure.
Okay. That's awesome. I figure, just, by my experiences, by Al's experiences, and by your experiences, we've all had a pretty positive, experience from being there. I always tell people, when, if they're considering Norwich or they're talking about going there, like, you have to be there to know it. Like, you got to be there to understand. Like, people be like, oh, Vermont. But like you said, you don't realize how great of a state Vermont is until you go there. Like, like when we used to go for Al's alumni weekends, we go, the leaves will be changing. Everything will be gorgeous up there. We see a great football game.
The foliage.
We meet some really cool people, and we would just vibe out and hang out. So, and then the good thing about Norwich is, even if you didn't go there or you are a visitor, they all treat you like family there. They all treat you like you've been there for like years. Like, I didn't go there, and I have friends up there that that I hung out with. So that's a big deal. So so other than that, let's go into the football aspect of it, which I think everybody wants to hear anyway. So
sure.
Well, let me ask the first question. As we're talking about Vermont, and it's gonna go to AT first, and then it'll go to Coach Russell. So, we talked about how beautiful Vermont is, but to the kid from Florida, California, Texas, where it's warm, or even here in New Jersey, when they think Vermont, the first thing they think is cold, right? So, as an athlete, specifically football, when you're outdoors, what can you say to that AT first, and then Coach Russell? Like, what do you say to that athlete?
Hey man, Deshaun, I sent you a picture the other day on your birthday.
Yeah,
That was one of the coldest days on Thanksgiving.
it was.
Right? Right? It was every day up there.
Yeah.
Okay. And practicing the snow, doing 3-a-days. Coach, yes. It was what it was. They prepared us. They made sure we were good, make sure we was warm. And we traveling. That's it. And that's all I could say about that. The weather was what it was. You was in Vermont. You in the valley.
So that's from the player's perspective, because I've always said as a coach too, there's a lot of times I didn't mind being up in the booth because I had to worry about rain or cold weather. So for you, Coach, what do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think AT is definitely onto something. Like it is what it is, right? Like, we're in Vermont, we're not moving campus anytime soon, and we have cold winters. Now, one of the things that I talk about a lot recruiting, because to your point, that question comes up, like, it gets cold at the end of the season, right? And then in the spring practice at the beginning, it's cold. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's cold. Now, the first question is, where else is cold? Ann Arbor, Michigan. But you'd be going up there if you got a Scully.
Right.
We ain't getting no Scullies, it's all grants.
Ain't getting no Scullies, so right. But then you look
cold too.
Right. When it gets really cold, and we do have some really cold winter. Like, I mean, today it was 10 degrees, but our kids had zero outdoor activity today. Like, but this time of year, we're in the weight room. They're in the mess hall. They're in the dorm. They're in the classroom. Like, they're not outside for a 2-hour practice.
Coach, about that? They still got the field house?
Yep, still got the field house. So they might be down there throwing 7-on-7 or throwing routes.
Yeah.
So, when it's really cold, and it does get really cold, they're spending very minimal time outside because they're going from, point A to point B, from the dorm to the mess hall to class to the weight room.
Treatment.
Yeah, treatment. And the reality of it is, and maybe this happened with AT, but I'm going to single out one specific guy. We had a kid, a strong safety for us, really, really good player, Tavares Ward, Piper High School, South Florida. And he came up on his recruiting visit and he said, "Coach, it's cold. It's cold." I said, you're going to get used to it. You're going to get used to it. He said, "Coach, I'm never going to get used to this." I said, "You will, trust me." So he came here. He came here for all the reasons we've already talked about, all the opportunities, all that. And then by the time he was a sophomore, this dude was walking around campus year round, no matter what, slides, socks, and a hoodie. He didn't even wear boots or wear a jacket.
They adjust.
So I say, "Hey, T, you cold?" He'd be like, "Nah, Coach, I got used to it." So,
your body acclimates to the cold.
100%, man.
And it is what it is. That's one of the amazing things about the human body. When you have to be somewhere, your body just says, "Hey, we got to do this." So we're just gonna tighten up and do what we got to do.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's like it is now. My parents be like, "You outside with no jacket?" I'm like, "This ain't nothing."
Yeah, right. You got toughened up for 4 years.
Yeah, this ain't nothing. I'm good.
The other thing I tell them too,
Crocs on? Oh my God, you got your Crocs on outside?
I tell them too, like, you can keep putting layers on. I'd rather be cold than hot. There's only so much you can do if you're playing ball when it's real hot out. We all remember preseason practices in August. There's only so much clothes you can take off and still have your equipment on. So, I'd rather have to put another jacket on.
Yeah. So it is what it is down there. I mean, up there, and but like I said, the opportunities, the area is great. Once you start getting immersed in the culture of that area of Northfield, Vermont, and Norwich, you kind of forget that stuff. Like when I first got there, I was like, "Oh man!" Like I got off the train, I was like, "Oh." And then, the first thing I noticed, and it's gonna be a little funny, is I went up and I saw Al. He greeted me at the top of the hill. I said, "My nose is
frozen. His nose is frozen."
He was like, "Don't worry about that. We'll take care of that later."
But even before that, my first coach, my first visit was with Anthony. We went up there. Coach Yes came and got me from I was in 5th period high school, and he came to pull me out of school, and I was in 5th period. It came down to the AD office, right? And then he sent me the offer, but it's all about being underrated and under recruited, you know what I'm saying? But he gave me that opportunity, and me and Aunt went up there about a month later and with my father, and we went and visited the school. And after that, it was over.
And
It's cold, huh?
I saw it at that age, I saw it as an opportunity. Now that I see it, it was an opportunity to change. Coach Yes and Norwich gave Al an opportunity to change his life, for the better, which I think is amazing. And I've always been impressed with what Norwich was able to do with Norwich was able to do in that aspect. There's just so many great opportunities. So let's just run into the football aspect of it now, which is what we want to talk about, Coach. So
sure.
Let's start with your side of the ball and what you do, your defense, how you run it, what you like to do in your defense, and what kind of athletes that you like in your defense,
Yeah, for sure.
Right there.
For sure. Coach Murniak, our head coach, is also our defensive coordinator. And we were and still are, we were early into the 3-4, odd man stuff and some zone pressures at our level. And he calls an unbelievable game. I've been standing next to him for 13 years, watching him call a game, and he's really good, man. He's a great defensive mind. So, we're going to base everything out of a 3-4 and start out of a 2-high shell. But we play really everything under the sun. When we're in our odd front, we'll play 2 high. We do a lot of rolling and screwing to get to 3 and 1 high. We'll play man. We play man free. We do a little bit of everything. we're going to play some 4-man front stuff as well, a couple different ways. And then, we'll even get down to, our 8 in the box, almost like a 4-4, that stuff too. So the thing that we've done pretty well here and is be able to get in and out of all these defenses without substituting. So we've got some hybrid players, right? The guys don't have to come off the field when we're in an odd front. He can be that Sam linebacker playing on a tight end. And then, if we want to get into forward stuff and keep him in the front, he can really play more as like a D end. So we've been fortunate to have those kids. But to follow through on your question, and it ties in well when we talk about our defenses, the advent of going to, because like when AT was up here with Coach Yes, it was 4-4, right? Like 4-4.
Straight up. Yeah. 4 in the box.
Exactly. So as we looked at, right, in the recruiting process, to his point of, I go into a high school to sit down, whether it's 5th period, 4th period, and I'm looking at a group of kids, odds are the FBS has been through already. The FCS has been through already. So, once they've gone through, like, there's not a ton, they're still out there, but there's not a ton of 6'2", 295-pound nose guards, so yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked at the kids that we're able to recruit, and then the kids that are on our roster, and then where is football headed offensively, right? And the answer to those things was linebackers, right? The majority of the kids that we're recruiting are somewhere between 5'10" and 6'2", and they're somewhere between 185 pounds and 225 pounds, give or take. And then, you look at your roster. What do you got? You got a lot of linebacker types, body-wise. And then where's offensive football going, right? Like, it's spreading out. People aren't, getting on the ISO at you all day. So it made sense to transition, and we've done that. And that's, again, what we base most of our stuff out of. I'd call us a zone blitz team. We're pretty aggressive. At least 90% of our snaps, we're going to bring one of those backers and get to a 4-man front post snap. But it's just, the fun thing about the 3-4 is, which guy is it, right? Like, I'm gonna line up with 4
You
guys.
don't know where it's coming.
Right. And we've been aggressive.
Bring that corner of safety down.
Yeah. The fun thing I tell recruits, and they like to hear it, and it's true, is the fun thing about our defense is every player in our defense at some point in the season is going to have an opportunity to rush the passer. So, we'll blitz those corners and those safeties. And every player in our defense at some point is going to get a chance to drop into coverage. Not very often, but we'll go and blitz and pop the nose out and drop the end or do those things. So
that's it.
Yeah. So I think it's a fun defense to play in, and the emphasis is to make plays and play fast and try to create turnovers. And again, we've had a lot of success doing that, and it's definitely a fun defense to be a part of.
Okay, so you said you coach linebackers, right?
Yes, sir.
So what is an ideal Coach Bill Russell linebacker? Like, what kind of, like, what is the Coach Bill Russell template of a linebacker, like, mentally and physically?
Yeah, I'm going to start with the physical, and I tell kids this all the time, right? Like, kids ask, and I get why they do, because they're looking at their buddies, they're looking at me, Coach, how much do you want me to weigh? I don't care, man. Can you play? Can
you do a 3 a day?
Yeah, like, I'm going to turn on the film and you can play or you can't, right? And if you weigh 185 or 235, there's that. And then they say, Coach, what should I be benching when I come through the door? I don't know, man. Like, we got guys from Texas that have been lifting weights since they were 8, and then we got guys from other states that have never touched a weight in high school because they're playing 3 sports, and and that's not unique to us. That's a D3 reality, right? So
right. As long as you pound for pound, you good.
Yeah, right. So what am I looking for? You got to be able to run to play in our defense, whether you're a nose guard, a D end, a linebacker, or a DB. And it obviously has to be, it's all scalable, but you got to be able to run, right? And that's number one. And then I tell kids all the time, like, you got to be athletic, you got to be tough. I can teach you to play linebacker. I can teach you the skills you need to be a good linebacker. If you're athletic and you're tough, and what does tough mean? Like, that's hard, right? Because teams, we talk about all the time, like, you make goals. Like, we're going to be the toughest team in the league. Well, how do you measure that, right? Like, you can't measure that. So, when I tell a kid, like, hey, you got to be tough, like, I'm gonna turn on the tape. But somebody's coming at you with the ball? Are you willing to put your face in there or not? Are you gonna jump out of the way or not? And when I say put your face in there, I'm using the term. I don't want to get. I don't want. I'm not telling kids.
No, I know how it is. We used to fight in practice. You fight in practice.
So, if you're willing to do those things, right? If you're athletic enough, and the tape will tell me that, and you're tough, there's a spot for you here. And our job as coaches is you can't sit around and say, "Oh, our linebackers stink." No, it's your job to put the kids in the position to be successful, right? So, if you go out and recruit a bunch of kids that are athletic and tough, your job is to put them where they belong, whether they're a defensive end or a linebacker or safety, whatever it may be. So that's coaching, right? Like adapting to your personnel is coaching. And, if you can't do that, you can't coach. So, we're out there recruiting. We're looking for as many, physical, tough kids. And you asked about the mental piece, and, we run a pretty complicated defense in terms of verbiage.
Okay.
Right? Like you're learning – 10 or 12 things, but you're learning, 25 to 36 words. I'm just throwing numbers out there. But so kids feel like they're learning a lot more things than they actually are when in reality they're learning words. But, I tell freshmen all the time, you're learning a new language and then you're learning it in sign language because, we're in no huddle, we're signaling it in. So you got to learn the language first. You got to learn Spanish and then you got to learn Spanish and sign language. So, it's tough, right?
Hey, Coach, what we trying to do is our job is we're trying to get the kids from Jersey like we have been doing and just push them up there to you.
Perfect. I'll take them.
So that's it.
I'll take them. But like the mental piece, like resiliency, right? And it's like, AT's gonna know this. I think like there's something we talk about up here at Norwich a lot, like being gritty, like grit, and what does that mean? I mean, we went so far. We had a professor virtually speak to our university the other night as part of a lecture series that they do up here every year. Professor Angela Duckworth, or Dr. Angela Duckworth, who writes about grit and what that means. And right now we're getting a chance. Everybody's getting a chance to look at like what does grit mean? It means sticking to something when it's hard, right? Overcoming adversity, you got to be able to do that. Like, I'm not a yeller and a screamer by any stretch of the imagination. Now, which is funny because, I'm kind of known for having a temper. So it's funny. It doesn't really translate to the field, but my wife and kids would beg to differ with that. But that being said, like, we're going to coach you hard, and we're going to coach you hard because we want you to max out your potential. Right. So that doesn't mean we're going to scream at you all the time. But what it means is when our guys come through the door, we're going to say, what's your goal? Like, young Alan Thomas in 1998, we're going to say, what is your goal? What do you want to achieve? It's going to be on the field, off the field, all those things.
I want to start. I want to travel. I'm traveling. I want to travel as a freshman.
There you go. So now you've told me what you want to do. Now my job is to hold you accountable to those things that you say, because I know what it looks like. And if you say you want to travel, you want to start, you want to be all conference, you want to be an All-American, whatever it may be, I know what those things look like. So if you're not doing those things to the level that you say, my job is to hold you accountable to the goals that you set for yourself. So therefore, when we're coaching guys hard, we're saying, you said you wanted this. Do you want me to help you get there or not? And if you don't, that's okay. But this is what you said you wanted, right? So, when you communicate with kids and they understand, if somebody knows you care about them and you care about their best interest, you can coach them as hard as you want, right? And that's the key, right? Is you build relationships with these kids and you show them that you have their best interest at heart. If you do that, you can coach them hard, and I believe that. And it's about trust. You build trust, and so all that being said, this is a long answer to. You got to have a little bit of grit and be able to take some hard coaching. And I tell the kids, don't be mad at me or don't be upset if I'm singling you out on tape and I'm correcting you. Be upset when I stop correcting you.
Right.
Exactly.
Right? You guys have all said that too, I'm sure. Because when I stop correcting you.
When I don't talk to you, that's the problem.
Yeah, it means I gave up. So,
you worry.
If the kid comes up here and he's willing to work hard, he's willing to be on time, he's willing to tell the truth, he'll take coaching, we're going to be just fine. And we're going to find a way for that kid to be successful.
Yeah. Now, what are you guys doing like on the offensive side of the ball?
Offensively, AT alluded to it earlier, we've really undergone kind of a metamorphosis. Coach Thessaloni's teams that Al played on, I played against were pro style, offensive football, and always had very big physical offensive lines. When I got here in 2008 through really 2018, we were very much a zone read, quarterback, run game, heavy team. We had a 4-year starter at quarterback from 2009 through 2012. That's the school's all-time leading rusher and has the record for career touchdown passes. So that tells you what he ran the ball, and when he threw it, it went big. But then in 2009, we hired a new 2019, we hired a new offensive coordinator, Mark Kolb. Has had a lot of stops, a lot of success where he's been throwing the ball. And our strength that year was certainly at the receiver position. And we threw the ball. We chucked it, and we had a lot of success. Manny Romero, who was a Jersey kid from Phillipsburg, had 60 catches, I think, for 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. Big play kid, and was a Division II and III Offensive Player of the Year in New England. And then we had a slot receiver as a true freshman, 64 catches, 800-something yards, another 10 touchdowns, was the NUMAC Rookie of the Year.
Wow.
We had a lot of success throwing the ball. Our quarterback that year threw for just shy of 3,000 yards in 10 games. And, I think we set 8 school records that year throwing the football. So, so that's where we're at right now. What 2021 holds.
I wish he was there when I was there, Coach.
I think a lot of Norwich. What if he'd been here when Garcon was here? Holy cow!
Oh my God! Well, he left. He filled me in after I left. He came right in after that. He stayed for 1 year, went to Mount Union.
Yep.
He filled me right in.
Yep.
So just getting off of what you were talking about, Coach, that offense sounds pretty explosive. You had one guy with 1,200 yards, and then you had another guy coming as a freshman with 800 yards. That's pretty serious. That's some pretty serious. Chucking the ball around. That sounds like an offense that myself as a former wide receiver, Al as a former wide receiver. Even Creek, man, as a running back. I'm sure he would get some catches out of the backfield that we will all like to play in. That we'd love to play in that offense.
Yeah. Well, here's how we knew it was going to be pretty fun. So, we hired Coach Kolb over the summer of 2019, and he came up and put in his office. We went through training camp, and we had a preseason exhibition game that went really well. We scored a lot of points, and then we go down to play for real. And we're playing down at Salve Regina, down in Newport, Rhode Island, week 1, very strong program. And the first offensive snap of the season and the Mark Kolb era went for an 83-yard touchdown. So, all right, we're off to a good start.
He had to feel good about himself.
Yeah, you guys had about what y'all had 21 years ago.
Yeah, right.
As far as the facilities, the locker room.
Oh, what happened? I missed. AT's talking to me.
So, Coach, what can you tell us about the culture of the program and the players, inside the locker room, on the field, off the field?
Yeah. The program's mission ties itself very well to the university, right? And our program mission is to produce leaders. And it doesn't mean in the military. It doesn't mean, they have to do this, that, or the other. It doesn't matter what they do. We want them to be the leaders in their field, right? And that's our goal, is to produce the guys that will be the leaders for this country, going forward. So we have a culture of, I would say, a culture of mutual respect, because there are kids here who are making different choices, and everybody in that locker room respects their choice, whether it's, they're choosing to be in the Corps of Cadets and be an officer, or they're choosing to come to Norwich and be the Corps of Cadets, but not necessarily do ROTC and not be in the military if they graduate, or they're coming here to pursue something academically and they're going to be a civilian student. We don't tell anybody, if you come to Norwich, this is what we don't tell you. You got to be in the Corps. We don't tell you what major you got to do. So therefore, everybody's making their own choices, and because you're around each other and you're on a campus where there's a culture of a military history, you got to be comfortable with that, and you got to respect it. And I think our team has a lot of mutual respect for each other. For me, I never served in the military. I didn't have the guts, frankly. So I have the utmost respect for these kids that I coach every day that have made that decision. And I think a lot of our players feel the same way of, they're like, that's not for me, but I respect the heck out of, him for doing that. And
it's not easy. It's not easy. Coach, I did the Corps Cadets for my first year. Figured out it wasn't for me. I was getting they going you up in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, you the suit and the flag and all this. You got to square your meal. That wasn't for me for the first year.
Right.
I'm getting in arguments with the drill sergeant, and I gotta go down and talk to Coach Yes, and he yelling at me and stuff, and I'm like, he can't do that.
Right.
I gotta make my bed a certain way, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's a certain way, and it's a different environment for everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
And Coach Ant, I tell you too, there's been times I done snuck him through my window in Alumni Hall.
I believe
it. So that's not for everybody, but how many, or would you say, a percentage of players that are playing and are cadets? Like, is that hard to do both? I mean, I know Al was saying it was hard, but is it generally hard?
Most.
We're about now we're about 55% core versus
good.
civilian. So
that's great.
It's hard, but it's also not. And I got to explain that again. Norwich is, Coach said at the beginning, like, you got to see it to understand it. So Norwich is such a unique place. On paper,
you got to walk the gutter. I forgot about that part.
Yeah,
you got to walk the gutter. You can't look at nobody. You can't look at nobody. So
true.
What you mean I can't? And then you in the same class with the same dude that say you can't walk with him. What you talk about? It's free. It's free game now.
Yeah, right. True. It's what was I saying? I remember walking in the gutter. That was funny.
You were saying about
the unique place, right? So on paper, you'd say to be a college student, a college athlete, and in the Corps of Cadets, for example, like that would be impossible. The reality of it is, and I think this is true at a lot of military schools, is being an athlete doesn't really make it any harder, and in some ways makes it easier, because for that student who's not a student athlete, they're going to class, and the rest of the time, when they're not in class, they're living that lifestyle AT's talking about, where they are a rook and they're, basically under military rules for the rest of that time. If you're playing football, you got to lift and you got to get treatment and you got to watch film and you got to go to practice. I mean, you're getting 3-4 hours where you can just chill and be a football player.
Yeah, coach on Friday, I couldn't wait to get out of there.
I bet.
So let's talk about.
There's a little bit of balance.
Let's talk about how the core, how those core values translate onto the football field, like how those, because I'm sure like the core values kind of translate from the field. I mean, from that area into the field, especially with some of the players when it comes to like leadership and things like that, because I would say every role in the Corps, every level in the Corps has some type of leadership aspect to it. So I would feel that just you having to be responsible for yourself, and if you get into a leadership position in the Corps, it would translate to leadership on the field and on the team as well.
Yeah,
I'm sure between coaching and the Corps, I'm sure it helps, the disciplines you get in the Corps. I'm sure that helps lead to why you guys have had successful seasons, for quite some time now.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And to pull it back to your bigger point is, this university has a set of guiding values and a living, breathing honor code that every student, Corps or civilian, they have to take an oath that they're going to live by this honor code. So that's nice to have in your back pocket as a coach, right?
Yeah. Hey, you do something wrong, you're getting kicked out, coach.
Right. Yeah. So there certainly is that piece, but it lends itself to leadership development. Like, I call this school a living leadership laboratory all the time. And what I tell a lot of kids is, because whether it's the military for real, once you're done, or if you decide to go into business, you're always going to work for somebody or serve under somebody that you don't like, right? So this whole evolution of a student athlete and a young person going into adulthood, like, you're going to learn as much about how to lead as you're going to learn about how not to lead, and that's just as valuable, right? So you can learn a heck of a lot about leadership by having bad leadership. Now we happen to get really great leadership here, the overwhelming majority of the time, but some of the most valuable lessons, and I'm sure we've all been there. You've played for a coach or something, and you always say, listen, if I ever get a chance to be in charge, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do it a different way. Mm-hmm. And those are valuable lessons too, right? So, I think these kids, they're empowered, whether it's in the Corps or whatever, they're empowered to be in leadership positions and learn trial by fire. The best way to learn how to lead is to have an opportunity to lead, right? So, to your point of in the Corps of Cadets, there are opportunities for them to be in charge of platoons and or leading, field training exercises and those type of things. And then, that does translate over the football field because as we all know, right, you have your team captains and all that, but you have these position groups, right? And every position group has a leader. If you don't, you're in trouble, right? So every little position group is going to have somebody. So it very much is a mirror experience, I think, for the kids of where, I'm also, I'm getting an opportunity to lead the inside linebackers or whatever, and it just really carries over. And then to your point, also, I feel like in 18, this again where he can fact check me, but I feel like that culture that the Corps of Cadets possesses bleeds into our entire university, whether you're Corps civilian. Like this is a place where students say to me, and these are not kids in the Corps, but they say to me, "Yes, sir. Good morning, sir. How are you, sir?"
Right? Yeah.
And they'll hold the door for me. Little things you think aren't a big deal until all of a sudden you stack them up, and you're like, "This place is different."
Yeah, and then you gotta, in the morning you're going to the breakfast and you gotta square your meal. You gotta walk in the corner. You gotta make your bed the same way. You up at 7 in the morning. It's not easy.
I think myself as a visitor there, that vibe permeated even with me because, as a visitor, like you said before, Coach, it's a military school, and as a visitor, you respect that. So when you see all the other people, doing what they have to do there, you kind of involuntarily fall in the line. You're just like, hey, well, they're doing it. Let me respect this. I'm going there. I'm saying yes, sir, myself. I'm seeing military brass there. I'm seeing coaches, people there, and I'm giving them the same respect that Corps students or regular students would give themselves. So that's actually a testament to your school and the culture at the school where you can take an outsider that's just coming to visit and they actually, fall in line with, the core values of the school. And I think that's amazing. I think that's an amazing thing.
Personally, I am 100% a stronger, morally and ethically stronger man now than I was when I got here. Okay. Just from being around the place. How old am I now? I got here, I was, mid-20s, 25, 26 years old when I got here. And I know been coaching a couple of years and being up here for 13 years, being around this culture and learning 100%. I feel like it's made me a better person, a better husband, a better father, a better coach, a better friend, a better son to my parents. It really has rubbed off on me. And it's, something I get really passionate about. And in this setting, I only got a little bit of gleam on my forehead, but usually when I start talking about Norwich, I'm really passionate about it. And you guys kind of said at the beginning, I feel like what Norwich is and what Norwich has to offer is one of the best kept secrets in America, and that's a shame.
Clearly.
So my job, and you're helping me right now, is to spread that so it's not a secret, so that these kids know about this outstanding opportunity at this, small school in Vermont. Because I do think, we have the opportunity to change lives, as you talked about. And, something I've been saying in recruiting a lot this year, because it kind of made sense in my brain is, choosing a college when you're signing day was just a couple of weeks ago and everybody was in a rush to sign. And, signing and choosing a college is a life-changing experience, but life-changing doesn't mean good. Mm-hmm. Life-changing can be bad too, right? All we're saying is it's going to change your life. So your decision is what determines whether that's changes for the better or the worse. So, I really think that the evidence that I've been able to collect over 13 years here is Norwich can change your life and put you on a path for success, and we're going to help you get there. We're not going to turn your back on you when it's time.
You know, I think that.
Coach,
Yeah.
let's talk money, Coach. You know, there's the misconception that, well, yeah, you can't get scholarships at a Division III school, but there are grants.
Right.
How does it work at Norwich University, or what kind of help could
Hey, Coach, real quick, is Miss McGrath there still?
No,
Miss McGrath, she's
gone.
Damn.
Retired.
She said that was the help right there, man.
Yeah.
If I needed books or something like that, I'll go right up to the registry, and she'd hook me up with books.
Yeah.
Give me like a little check to go get books. Yeah, man, that's how that works.
That was
They
helpful in
take
that
care
way.
of you. Yeah, man. That's how that works.
Right. And we give you know, we give our accepted students a merit scholarship, probably similar to most of the D3 schools you've talked to. And, you know, that's based strictly on academics, that part of it. Coming out of high school, it's a GPA range. You qualify for this one, or this one.
Right.
You know, and then through the FAFSA process, there's, you know, additional grants available, you know, and all that we call gift aid, right? You don't have to pay it back. And you know, that's essentially a scholarship. And what if kids see this and there's one thing that they can learn, don't fall in love with the word football scholarship, because you know, hey, if you get a full boat to go to school, take it, man. I'm not ever going to tell you not to, right? But when
you get hurt, it's gone.
You might get a $10,000 football scholarship somewhere. Yeah, but you might get a $25,000 merit scholarship from a Division III school. Like, you know, yeah, it's cool to tell everybody you got a football scholarship, but money's money. You know, money talks.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that, you know, the merit scholarship, the grant through the FAFSA and all that, and the loans. You know, what Norwich does really well is we're going to minimize your debt and maximize the return on investment. You know, Georgetown University did a study 2 years ago, and they basically took college graduates and where they were at 40 years out, and Norwich was in the top 7% in the country for return on investment versus you know, what kids are paying for school versus what they're earning. So that's obviously something that's critically important, right? It's not about there's only people never say I'm going to buy the cheapest sneakers I can. They never say I'm going to buy the cheapest car that I can.
You get what you pay for, right?
They never say, They never say, I'm going to buy everything I can. But for some reason, kids say, I'm going to school wherever it's cheapest. And that's crazy to me, because now we're talking about, again, changing your life. What path are we going to take? Right. Don't say cheapest. Now, look for the best value, look for the best return on investment, all that stuff. So, yeah. And one thing that's important for me to mention is we're talking about the financial piece, and, you know, it's not a secret. It's out there publicly, but we have what we call a commitment to affordability here. That basically means if you get a more affordable financial aid package from a competitive school, a similar school, if we can match the price, we will.
That's amazing. That's good enough.
It's not a guarantee, right? I'm not saying like
I'm just saying, but like that, the whole aspect of that is incredible, because I haven't seen too many colleges that would be willing to say, hey, like, you know, if you find a comparable college that's a little bit more expensive, we'll I mean, you know, cheaper, we'll price match that.
We'll match it.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's about
good school, good loyalty. For real. That's how I got here, you know.
Yeah, and we want to make a Norwich degree affordable, if we can, you know, and we believe in the power of it, and we believe that, you know, if there's a student out there that wants the Norwich degree, we need to do everything we can to make it attainable for them and their family.
So when you say comparable school, do you mean like you know, just like, what do you mean by comparable? Like, you know, like a private school, a 4-year private school. Okay.
Obviously another senior military college.
Okay.
BMI, what's the name?
BMI, the Citadel, so on.
Citadel,
a flagship out of state, you know, state school. So the big flagship university, you know, but like, for example, I'm trying to think of, you know, we're not going to be able to match basically all the state school prices. And, you know, we can't match junior college prices or community college prices.
Yeah, you can't go against Army and nothing like that.
Yeah, but the thing is, you're a private school, so it's different. So I know what you're getting at in terms of state school. I understand. But
Right.
you're talking about in terms like a private school on the same level.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about like if we're talking about say like a Middlebury or something like that, am I right? Am I right to talk about
They're
that?
not. They're not a military school.
Yeah.
No, but in
It's like
terms of
VMI or
affordability.
something like that.
Yeah. No, but
I'll be right back.
what would be a good one? I was trying to think of a school in Jersey that would be a good private school, or but like Pennsylvania, Dickinson, for example, a 4-year private school,
Okay.
a school like that down in PA, or really any 4-year private school that you could think of.
So like a FDU or something like that, like a Fairleigh Dickinson.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Which
And then
is not cheap.
no. And the private school price tag, I think for a lot of schools, I think we're all fighting the same battle. I know you had Coach DiRienzo on here already from Springfield, and
Yes.
they're in our league and a competitor of ours, and they're fighting the same battle I think we all are. Is the private school price tag often can scare kids and their families away, but they don't understand that those private schools often have a lot more flexibility in terms of financial aid,
Right.
for their students. So, it's you look at the price and you're like, I can't afford to go here. And you gotta beg kids something like, hey man, go through the process, put in the FAFSA. I think we're going to be affordable at the end. Just trust me. And oftentimes they do, thank goodness. But it can be a little bit of sticker shock.
Yeah, that's true. So, Coach, I got to ask you. There are some schools and coaches who, have their thoughts on recruiting services. While Dream is very, very different. I ask you, what your thought process on that is, and the reason why I ask you is because if you get a student athlete like say AT, right? Our school, I mean, we probably threw the ball 15 times maybe
A year.
and he was a receiver, right? So someone like him, would need the exposure because he's a wide receiver and we barely threw the ball. I mean, even when we threw passes, the quarterback kept it, So
Yeah, right.
I was mad.
In the end zone like this.
Oh man.
So how do you feel about them? Because again, different coaches feel different about them, and some athletes really do need it.
No, 100%. Some do. And I think you got to look at it. Unfortunately, in coaching, right? There's some guys that are in it for the right reason, and there's some guys that aren't. There's some guys that coach for the logo. All they want is the logo on their shirt, and there's some guys that want to help kids. And I think the same thing. And you have to kind of evaluate each coach on an individual basis. And I really kind of think the recruiting services, you have to kind of be the same way. Like obviously, having some connections to Al. Like I know that you guys are legit. And you're doing this for the right reason. You're trying to get exposure for kids and do all those things. And, I'd like to believe that the majority of the guys out there doing what you're doing, that's their goal. Fortunately in football, I think I have yet to have any type of really bad experience with a recruiting service. I think what scares people is they see like the AAU culture in basketball, and they worry about that. I think we're a ways off from that. Still, the 7-on-7 is a different deal, but I think if you're a college coach and you have an opinion on the recruiting service, the communication I get from the recruiting service should tell me right away if they're pushing kids and they're really trying to help kids, why would I have beef with that?
Right.
Exactly.
But if they reach out to me one time,
hey, Coach, is Booth still up there? Paul Booth?
Oh yeah.
He's still there?
Yeah, his office is 3 doors down from me. When we finish up here, I'm gonna go get a lift in. I'll make sure to tell him he said hi.
Yeah, make sure he knows me.
Oh yeah.
I would think so. Circling back to that when we're talking about the services, I would think that most coaches would view recruiting services as an extra tool, because it's like you're out there on the road. You're going to schools. I know you have your list of prospects. So and you're going through the list of prospects. You're talking to kids. You're talking to parents. You're talking to coaches. So I would think that a service that is actually saying like, hey, there's a kid that you may have missed, or a kid that that might interest you, or a kid that that is still available, that you need to take a look at, would be a boom. It would be actual help, actual help to you, and it would expand your reach because I can see in this year of COVID, with certain kids in certain states not being able to have a season, we've really seen the impact of what a lost season, the detriment of what a lost season, a detriment of a lost season on a student athlete. Like, we've seen, like, after signing, like you said, Coach, everybody, some kids had the joy of sitting at the table and doing the whole hat ceremony and doing the thing, and some kids, are just like, I'm still looking. And
Right.
What got lost in the sauce to me is that a lot of people didn't realize, and I think one D3 coach said it on Twitter. He said signing day is not for D3 or D2 schools. We're looking all year long for players. After that day, we're still on the beat. We're still on the horns. We're still on Twitter. We're still looking at huddle film. We're still looking to add to our teams. And I think a lot of that gets lost because people just, they look at signing day and they're just like, okay, they look on ESPN, they see the hat ceremony, and they say, well, after 5 or 8 o'clock, it's done. It's not
right.
over,
Right.
and there's so many good players out there, and I just think that like services like ours and others, they literally can be of a help to a lot of colleges and a lot of coaches,
Yeah.
in terms of finding talent.
Yeah,
Hey.
100%. Like
I know who said signing day isn't for D3, is only for D1 kids. It was Coach Russell.
It was. I think the exact tweet was whispers.
Yes.
Signing day is not really a D3 thing. Relax.
Yes.
Yes.
It was him.
You sure did.
Hey, Coach, Coach, real quick, let me just get your phone number real quick, and I'll get in touch with you.
We can.
Well, why don't you send it? You don't even want to put it over the thing.
We can definitely.
I'll be getting hate text all night.
We can
yeah.
Once
we after the broadcast, you can get it. But
okay.
So Coach, let me ask you this, because I follow you, and you said something. You posted something that was really important that I think recruits, student athletes should understand. And it was about ghosting. Recruiters. I think there's a lot of student athletes can learn from what you have to say about that and how they should deal with people that have been recruiting them. So what can you say to that?
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely never want to come across as like the cranky old man on Twitter ever, right? But I think
no, but it's valuable.
Yeah, well, I think the reality of it is a lot of kids, whether it's at home or their coach, they're not learning a lot of things that we all learned when we were coming up.
It's a respect thing.
Yeah, so and again, I'm going to sound like the cranky old man. That's not where I'm coming from, but through this recruiting process, there's a lot of on the kids and the coaches, but there's want, right? Like, are you offering me? Do I have a roster spot? Can I get a picture in a jersey? Can I do, can I text you at 11 o'clock at night? Can I do? Yeah, yes. But then when you lose interest, like, that's okay. Like we talked about it, Norwich is not for everybody. No school is. So you wanted all these things from me. And then when I don't hear back from you for 2-3 weeks now, just tell me, man. Like, I'll be disappointed. I lost a kid today, and I'm disappointed, but I wasn't mad at him. Man, I wish you the best of luck. And if you ever change, let me know. And then the instant rebuttal to that is, well, coaches should do the same thing. Yeah, absolutely, coaches should do the same thing. The coach out there that refuses to respond to a kid, that coach is just as guilty as the kid we're talking about now. So in no way, shape, or form am I giving a pass to coaches when I say something like that.
Exactly.
There's a lot of guys out in this. I talked about them. They want the logo on the shirt. They don't want to help kids. They don't care about the right things. And if those guys are doing that, then karma comes around, because all of a sudden now, Al, is a 2021 grad, and I ghost him. But then Ant is a 2022 grad, and I'm really interested in him, but I didn't know they were buddies. It all comes back to get you. So you got to handle it. And when I think I said at the end of the tweet, like, give the respect that you want to get. And I'm talking both ways. Like these coaches out there, like show these kids respect. I remember being a high school kid and sending VHS tapes out and filling out questionnaires. And I'll be dead honest with you. I transferred, and when I transferred to the first school that responded to my questionnaire.
Right.
Mhm.
I was at a FCS school. I had no business being there. I couldn't play there, and I started filling out D3 questionnaires one night in my bedroom at midnight. And the first school that got back to me, they were like, "You want to come visit?" I was like, "Yep." I went and visited. They were like, "You want to come?" I was like, "Yep." So, you never know, right? And don't burn
the bridges.
You might think you're doing this year, you're going this place. And again, this goes for coaches and kids.
Yeah.
Don't burn bridges because you don't know where you're going to be in a year from now, 2 years from now. Just keep the mutual respect, that good relationship there. I can't tell you how many kids, and some of them have come here and some of them haven't, but have reached out to me, 1.5, 2 years, 3 years after I recruited them initially, because we had a good relationship and we kept that bridge intact, and they may be looking for a change.
Right.
Yeah, so I wanted to just talk a little bit about that too, about that comment you made, Coach. And it garnered a lot of love on Twitter, because to me it resonated. It made sense. It's just like like I always used to tell kids when I coached high school, I used to tell kids, I was like, every coach that came in to see you, whether or not you're interested in their school or not, you thank them. You thank them for taking their time out to drive, to come see you, to talk to you about their school, to talk to you about their opportunity. The
Right.
same, you see a lot of coaches, they reciprocate that back. Whether it's a letter, whether it's phone calls, whether it's just some type of acknowledgement. And I will always tell them, like, the same way you say, Coach, and less words, just the respect that you want, you got to give. And I think that's a big thing. I think that goes a long way to building a bridge of trust. Because who knows what could happen. You could be talking to a kid, they could lose interest, but because you guys have a relationship that's still solid, you could come back and say, hey, let's look at this again, and then the kid ends up becoming a part of the team. So I just tell I kind of want to get this into the minds of kids, like, never burn your bridges, guys. Never burn your bridges, because you never know when you may come back to that same bridge and may have to cross it. So,
right.
And it makes sense, because it's the same thing, like you said, like if you were to ghost the kid, and they come back to you come back to the school looking for a kid in another year, they can say, well, I don't want to deal with him because if he just doesn't show interest anymore, he's just gonna treat me like I don't matter. So and I think, like, right now, just everybody just needs to understand that respect is reciprocal on both ends. And
100%.
I really appreciated that comment. Like, that was actually very brave to say that. and I appreciate that. Like, that resonated with me as a coach. So like, I think that's a great thing.
I mean, again, I think you get into this profession to help kids, right? And you got to help kids first. You got to help kids in every way that you can. And if I say something on Twitter that helps a kid learn something, great. And I learn stuff. I follow a bunch of other coaches and not just coaches, but all kinds of people. I'm learning stuff every day too. So social media is absolute poison, but we can also use the poison for positive. So I'm going to use that social media and try to get something good out of it too. And look
Ain't that right?
Try to
social media is poison.
Try to get some wisdom and maybe some cat videos, and try to ignore try to ignore the negative pieces of it. But yeah, it's there's a fine line. You said that was brave. There's a fine line between brave and stupid. So I'm glad I was on the right side.
Nah, it was just a solid comment, and I'm from the reaction you got from it, I think a lot of people shared that sentiment, because we kind of need more of that in today's age, just mutual respect of human beings, and just like, I think that would go a long way to just, healing certain divides, and, just getting a better understanding of, humans in general. So
100%. 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And that's honesty and respect will take you a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it, man. That's it all day.
Absolutely.
That's true.
To all the things you said in the the division in the world, and we're talking about football, and I spoke at a camp a couple summers ago, and that was before, things weren't nearly as bad as they are now. And I said, if everybody grew up in a locker room, this country wouldn't have the problems that we have.
Right,
Coach, talk about it, man. They got a nice locker room more than the one we had.
Yeah, we do.
I'll put it this,
Man.
A lot of battles will be settled if we had the Oklahoma drill. You got a problem?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got a problem? Line up, head
Yeah.
to head.
For sure. And then they just, and Al probably went through the same thing on the other, like, I grew up in Southern Maine, right? And like everybody that I grew up with, pretty much the same, whether it was, racially, ethnically, socioeconomically, it was all pretty standard. There wasn't a whole lot of deviation, and going away to school and getting in a locker room with kids from all over the place, of every race, of every ethnicity, of every background imaginable, that did wonders for me as developing into a young man. So you can't undervalue that experience of being exposed to other cultures and just shutting your mouth and learning, right? And learn, like, if I had been teammates with Al, I would have said, like, I don't know what it's like to be you, and I want to learn what it's like to be you. And I tell my players at the beginning of every year, regardless of who they are or where they're from, like, I don't know what it's like to be you, and you don't know what it's like to be me. So once we build some trust and respect, let's learn from each other. And it's a heck of a lot of fun, man.
It is.
One night you might need some ramen noodles from somebody.
Right?
Up,
So yeah, to your point of, if we all just grew up and there's nowhere to hide on the football field either, too. Like, we talked about the poison of social media, these people that say these things to people that disrespect and they hide behind a keyboard. Like, there's nowhere to hide when you get the pads on, and there's a lot to be said for that.
Exactly.
And you get the same pads for 4 years. That's it.
Go ahead, Creek.
Coach, let's go back. You mentioned, growing up in Maine. One of the questions I did want to ask you is, what made you decide to want to be a coach, and a little bit more about your background before we wrap it up.
Yeah. All my life, well, I shouldn't say all my life, but as far back really as I can remember thinking about my future, I had no goals of being a coach ever. I wanted to be a teacher. I loved working with kids, which ironically, coaching is teaching, but but I wanted to be a teacher, and I really was focused on like elementary school because I remember being a middle schooler, and I don't want to coach middle schoolers or teach middle schoolers because I remember that. Now I got 2 of them in my household, so
yeah.
But I always wanted to be an elementary school teacher, and I went through college, and I did my student teaching. I took my exams, I got my certifications, and everybody said, "Oh, they need male teachers. They need male teachers." I was living in Boston at the time, so they're like, "Oh, the city schools, they need male teachers. You're going to get a job in a heartbeat." All right, great. Guess what? No, I didn't. So, it was getting the nut cutting time a little bit, and I was like, "What am I going to do?" And my college coach offered me, it was kind of like a GA at the time. They called it a coach in residence program, and I got like a few $1,000 and a dorm room, and I got to eat in the dining hall. Right?
Hey,
so
that's actually good right now.
Yeah, it was. I didn't realize it at the time, but now I do. Now that I'm paying for food,
a luxury right now.
Yeah. So I kind of did that as like a stopgap, like I didn't want to be unemployed.
Right.
So I was like, well, I'll go help out for the season while I wait and see what happens. And literally the first practice of training camp, the first year, we went out there for, again, it was back in the day, so it was three days and all that, but in the heat. But I came off the field after the morning practice, and I was like, oh no, this is what I want to do, man. This is what I want to do. And at that point, it was just about the game, right? What I have found is I still love football just as much. I still love coaching. I have a passion for taking somebody and teaching them the fundamental skills to play a linebacker in college. I love that. But the off the field, the recruiting, the mentorship, the communication with guys, like that really has taken my love for this to a whole new level of sitting in, having a kid stop by my office, sitting down, and we'll talk about what was better, 90s hip hop or now. The answer is 90s, but we'll have that conversation for an hour and a half, and go back and forth, and then he'll text me that night and be like, "Hey, coach, I was on Spotify and I checked out this that you talked about," and that type of stuff. And recruiting, like I love recruiting, but here's a secret, right? And people, this is going to make Coach Twitter really mad at me if they're watching this. There's no such thing as great recruiters. There's guys who can communicate, who work at great places.
Yeah.
Right? Like, people tell me, they're like, Coach Russell, man, you're a really good recruiter. No, I'm not. I work at a really good school. Right? I love talking to kids, and I believe in what we have here, so I have a great product to sell. If Coach Russell worked at a crummy school, Coach Russell would be a terrible recruiter, right? So, or Coach Russell would be a liar, and those guys are out there too.
Yes.
So, so I love opportunities. I love offering opportunities to guys and their families and all those things. So, again, I talk too much, but it's a long answer to, it wasn't always what I wanted to do, but it was like the romantic comedy movie, right? Like it was everything I always knew I never knew I always wanted. So once I got off that first practice, it was a wrap. I was stuck.
That's
girlfriend,
cool.
the girlfriend that you didn't know, but you always needed.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
She's here. It's funny when I talk to coaches now. Me and Creep were laughing about this in the last show when we were talking about when they become GAs and stuff like that. The perks of being a GA is eating at the dining hall for free. And
and it's not for free. You gotta swipe that card
in the shelter.
Yeah, right. True.
I should have did that in my 20s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like went to that faculty dining hall, man.
Yeah. I mean, my first let's see how many, my first 4 years coaching, I didn't have health insurance. My dad said, "What's your plan?" I said, "Don't get sick."
You get a cold, take some Robitussin, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. But so I just think me, Norwich holds a special place with me because I've been up there a million times to visit Al, to hang out and stuff like that. So, I have a bond with that area. And I just know for an incoming student and for your incoming class coach, you guys, I'm talking to the players and the incoming guys, that there's a lot of great things to look forward to. You're gonna forge some really good friendships, some really good bonds. You're gonna meet some like really cool people. There's people that I've met up there that I'm still friends with today. That still that hang out. That I still talk to and things like that. So. And I just think there's just a lot that Norwich has to offer, and we've seen that tonight with what you talked about, Coach, and I appreciate you for elaborating on the those facts about what what Norwich does and will offer to a student.
For sure.
So we thank you for that.
Yeah, we appreciate your time and coming on with us and telling us all the great things about Norwich, and hopefully there'll be many student athletes that can see this and get to know you and what Norwich has to offer.
Yeah,
it's definitely something that they should all look at.
Yeah, well, I really, really appreciate you guys having me on, man. This was a lot. It was. It kind of felt like.
Hey, coach, you still saying today is a new day? God has given us day.
You got that right.
And let me know, man. Hit me up, man. I got to get off of this. I got something else to do, man.
Yeah, man. I'll put my I'll DM my cell number through the DMs and make sure it gets to you.
Yeah, just Coach, hang on with us after the show for a little bit, because I want to talk to you about some other things myself. But
okay.
So I think today's conversation. It was just awesome. Like, it was just like, just an awesome layout of what your school, has to offer. I do want to, when they open it up again, I do want to get back up there and watch a game.
Please do. Come on up.
Me
Put you
too.
on
saw
the
you
ticket
guys.
list.
I'll bring you guys up for alumni weekend.
I saw you guys
Yeah.
had some fancy.
Look
I'll let
forward
y'all.
to
I'll show you out the area.
You
Y'all
guys had
will
some
never be
fancy
able to
new
find the place.
uniforms. Well, you guys had some fancy new uniforms, some fancy new cleats. Now,
Yeah, we got the fancy stuff.
I saw that the gold fleck cleats. I'm like, man, I want a pair of those.
A little more fancy than we all had back when we played.
Oh man, these kids don't understand how blessed they are right now. You know, with that. The alumni's been working for them. So with that being said, this is our third iteration of Recruit Nation Sports. We were on with Coach Bill Russell of Norwich University. We thank you for being on our show, Coach. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun having me too, and I appreciate you, man. Number 9, baby, number 9.
Remember, kids. There is some great opportunities in Northfield, Vermont. There is a great school, Norwich University. You should check it out. Coach, do you have the website for Norwich and Norwich Athletics, or?
Yeah, definitely. The school is just pretty simple. It's www.norwich.edu, Norwich, and then the school is athletics is norwichathletics.com. And then you can follow us on Twitter at NorwichFB. And if you're brave enough to follow me, at the Coach Russell, RUSSELL. So
sorry, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, no, that's it.
Get at the Coach Russell. He is still looking for players. Am I right, Coach?
Yes, sir. Always.
All right.
Always.
Yeah, always looking for players. So hey, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to send a DM of your film, of your huddle film to Coach Russell. He's always looking for it.
Always.
Hit me up, Coach. I'll be looking out for you. All right.
With that being said, we're gonna be out for the day. Peace and love.
Yeah, love y'all, man. Number 9 all day, baby. See y'all later.
All right.